When I heard about the arrest, it was overwhelming.
It's hard to describe my feelings. I was speechless.
It was bound to happen. I kept telling him that if he kept hanging out, not listening, and messing up at school, that he'd end up in handcuffs. And I was right.
I was so disappointed that my son got arrested.
I just wanted to know why.
When I first learned that my son was arrested, I was shocked. The first thing that I did was actually grab my head and
My feelings when I first learned that my daughter was arrested was, oh my God, why, where, what happened, and what am I gonna do?
Pues que fue bien duro para mí y él era muy joven para estar ahí.
All right, so if you're watching this video, your child may have gotten into trouble, arrested, and possibly placed in detention.
After I received the phone call, the police department directed me to come where she was and be a rescue to her. It was a relief of joy because at the time she was considered missing and considered a runaway. But it was also disappointing because out of desperation, she was stealing food.
Children are arrested by police for doing something which would be a crime if done by an adult.
My world turned upside down. I miss work for court, and I'm on a tight budget.
I'm a single mom, so pretty much I bear all the burden on my own. Everything is on me.
Que sí, eso me hizo un impacto a mí porque yo tuve que buscar unos babysitter para pagar.
Your child has a juvenile probation officer, or JPO. The JPO is assigned to your child from the beginning of the case. The JPO can help you. Don't be afraid to ask questions.
Oh, all those letters. None of it made any sense.
Court was confusing. I had no idea what anyone was talking about.
Pues los papeles que me llegaban a mi casa o me entregaban eran todo inglés, pero la aprobación que es hispana me enseñó, me leyó todo y yo entendí todo perfecto.
If English is not your first language and you don't understand something, an interpreter can be provided. Ask your child's probation officer.
My attorney explained all the terminology and what everything meant to me.
As a parent, you have rights. The right to know why your child was arrested, when your child is due in court, and where your child is being held if placed in detention.
Most kids have public defenders who are appointed to represent them. Public defenders don't cost anything. Some families can contact a private lawyer if they can afford it. At the court hearing, the lawyer usually tries to get the child released immediately.
The lawyer will meet with your child before the court or detention hearing. It's important for parents to understand that the lawyer works for your child, not you, regardless of who pays the bill.
It might be frustrating, but it's how the system works.
He was very professional. He introduced himself. He seemed like he really cared, and he had the time to sit down and go over everything with what he was going to do for my daughter. The main thing he said to me, and I really liked, was, I work for your daughter.
If your child wants to share confidential information with you that he has shared with his lawyer, it's your child's choice to give permission.
You've probably heard of Miranda rights, the right to remain silent, and so on. It's important that your child understands that he or she should only speak to a lawyer and that anything they say can be used against them in court.
The judge explained to me that she required a lawyer. I had applied for a public defender. My question to the judge was, what happens if I can't afford a lawyer or don't want to pay a lawyer because I didn't commit a crime? And I was told that, well, we will pick one anyway.
When you first meet the lawyer, you have to tell them everything. Medical issues, mental health, behavior, anything out of the ordinary. School problems, all those details.
As an attorney, I can best help your child if I have all the facts, good and bad. So tell me everything.
We were lucky. It was only a summons. We were lucky enough to know the court date and time, and the next day we could call a lawyer.
The arresting officer determines whether a child gets released right away with a summons or a promise to appear in court. If the arresting officer thinks the child should be sent to detention, he speaks to a judge to obtain a court order to send the child to a detention center. The officer's decision is based on the charge or if the child is already on parole or probation.
The charges usually determine how cases are handled. Less serious offenses such as trespassing or shoplifting may be handled non-judicially.
Non-judicial cases do not go before a judge. These cases are managed outside of court by a juvenile review board, if one exists where you live, or by your child's probation officer who meets with the family.
More serious offenses are dealt with judicially, meaning they go before a judge. For example, if a child is accused of selling drugs or weapons, is charged with a serious assault, has been convicted in court or admitted to delinquency on other cases, the case will go before a judge.
The court process includes several different hearings and finally, what they call a dispositional hearing, where the judge decides what will happen to your child. Your child's lawyer can explain the process in each hearing.
La abogada me explicó todo y ella me ofreció de que iba a estar representando al nene. Para ver si gana los casos y todo eso. Yo entendí todo, es bueno.
During the hearing process, information is presented to a judge. The probation officer makes recommendations to the judge for services, evaluations, and the need for detention.
The judge considers all information and makes the final decision.
The judge may decide to dismiss the case, place your child on probation, keep your child in detention, commit him to DCF, send him to the training school, or send him to a residential facility.
Even if your child's case goes to final disposition, it may be possible to erase records. Ask your child's attorney about this.
I was anxious going to court. I was scared. I didn't know what was going to happen.
The courthouse is pretty overwhelming with metal detectors, lots of people, guards. But just go to the desks, tell them who you are, and they'll tell you where to go.
My feelings when I first went to court for my daughter was, oh my God, I don't want to be here. I don't want her here. And we're going to be judged. But that's my daughter and I'm here.
My first experience walking into a courthouse with my 5th grade son was life-changing. I couldn't believe that's where I was. It was a shocking and disappointing feeling.
After the first time in court, I realized that I had to educate myself. I started asking a lot of questions. I asked for people's names, business cards. It also helped to write everything down.
So I basically winged it through listening in the courtroom to what people were saying and understood, even in the courtroom, even with the lawyer, I still have to advocate and speak out.
Important rules to remember when going to court include dressing your best, as if you are going to a job interview. Be on time, be honest, and never interrupt the judge.
During court, the lawyer who represents the state will try to prove that the charges against your child are true. This person is called the prosecutor. He presents information to the judge, and if the case goes to trial, may ask the police, witnesses, and the alleged victim to testify.
For families, this can be difficult to hear. But remember, if your child's case goes to trial, your child's attorney will be in court too. And it's the lawyer's job to represent your child.
I relied on the lawyer and JPO to help me understand the details, the terminology, and the court process, who was who, and why we had to keep coming back.
My son's attorney helped me through the process by showing me different avenues and different mentoring programs, things that could help him along the way.
As far as the probation officer doing her job, she did. She stayed involved. No matter how many times my daughter would turn her away or give her a hard time, she continued to try to be there. There was times where she would call me and just say, ask me how I'm doing.
I would say if a parent or a child has a question, they should contact their JPO. They work for the court and they have a lot of knowledge about the system.
Un consejo yo le daría a un madre y un padre, porque a veces los padres son los que crían los hijos también, que estén ahí para ellos, estén fuertes, no los dejen atrás.
My advice and my suggestions that I have for families whose children get arrested is just take a deep breath, number one. Number two, we all make mistakes, and you have to be an advocate for your child, because that's the best advocate is you. It's not easy, but you have to ask questions, just be there and do your best.
The advice I have for families that are going through the same thing is that don't stop, don't give up, do whatever you can to find avenues to help your child, because it's getting worse and worse every day. There's a lot of things going on today that's just not what I grew up seeing.
My advice for families who have crisis with their children is to first recognize that you have a crisis, and to know, despite how the system feels about your child, they're still somebody's loved one. The mistakes they may make is not what you taught them. And through it all, you have to allow them to understand, even if you fall, you can get back up again.
I would say the best thing for your child is to be there. Be available, show up for every court date. It's important for the judge to see that the kid comes from a family that's going to be sticking by him no matter what.
Understand she may have made a mistake, but she's still your child, and you'll get through the process together.